there is real merit in generative AI. But as of now, also what I'm seeing prominently that
Hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of the AIM Media House podcast, Simulated Reality. Today we have with us the co-founder and CEO of Polestar LLP, Chetan Alsisaria. Chetan, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
thanks, Kashyap. Thanks for having me here. I'm doing good. I hope you are doing great too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. I'm doing great as well. Okay, so Chetan, I think we are going to talk about again generative AI, but we discussed this and we want to bring in an element where companies are able to unpack actionable insights out of this conversation. You're working very closely with enterprises to build Gen AI for them. I want to kind of understand and help our audience understand what is it on a day-to-day basis that kind of enables to derive maximum value out of generative AI, because a lot of them are in POCs, right? So let's start at the very beginning, Chetan, right? Can you help us understand what is the thought process today? Now, Gen AI has been a buzzword for a while. Before now, everybody was doing a POC. Is it the same case today? Is the hype has the hype died a little bit so that everybody's focused on the value rather than the technology, or the problem rather than the answer? And then we can probably take it from there.
So, Kashyap, very rightly put, this is still initial days, I would say. The hype has still not died. In fact, I would say hype has only increased over a period of time. And rightfully so. This is not a hype without fact. There is real merit in generative AI. But as of now, also what I'm seeing prominently that organizations are using it in like small teams or individuals to increase productivity or to augment human capabilities. So like you would see marketing team using it to generate the content, the blogs, the social media posts, or they would use to generate images, or you would see small code snippets being generated by tech teams or code documentation being done. But at an enterprise level, the case is they've started thinking about it, because there was a period when everyone wanted to do things because everyone else was doing.
Hmm.
But now they've started asking this question that, are we doing the right thing? Have we picked up the right use cases? Is this a real use cases? Are these the real use cases for generative AI? And how do we take it from that POC to an enterprise level, implementation or enterprise level deployment? That is something which organizations have started asking at this point in time. But yes, as of now, also I would say that majority of the work is still at a POC stage. Um, some segments or some industries are slightly ahead in the curve, where they have integrated some bit of generative AI in some of their business processes. Example would be a big, I would say one simple case where almost, or I would say a lot of companies would have already integrated it, would be chatbots, like HR policies. Now that level of production deployments have started coming up, or maybe your agreements and legal contracts, a bot around it which can read it, interpret it, and answer questions in an intelligent manner. That is something which has started coming up. But as I said, this is still in nascent stage. I don't see a lot of enterprise level deployments at this point in time, but we would very soon move towards that.
Fantastic. Great. You said a lot of the use cases even today are in POCs, right? I think whenever we have come up with a new technology or there has been a new innovation, a lot of them uh, have in the initial phases are are POCs. They're proofs of concepts which leaders which kind of companies try to build over a period of time. What are some of the challenges that are the current POCs facing? Also, are they taking a little longer than what other technologies have taken? Is it that difficult to reach that level of general intelligence for Gen AI to become, you know, or be put into production today, what are some of the challenges that you have seen on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. The first big challenge, even before POC, is most organizations, they do not have a clear strategy. They do not have a well identified set of use cases. So, it's mostly like, let's do something. And many times, many of those use cases, they are not adding that much value for which organization would want to spend or time, energy, money, any of those. So that is one. Second thing is, when you actually start working on those, it's one thing to kind of ask a question at an individual level and get some answer and get thrilled with it. But when you want to take it to production level, your accuracy becomes a big factor. Biases and hallucination is a reality, because most of the foundation models, they're trained on a huge amount of data. If there is an inherent bias in that particular data, the outcome would reflect that. Second thing is, these foundation models, they lack your context, your business context. So they would at times generate some output which would look very accurate, and blend it with the actual correct information in a manner that you would not be able to identify whether that's correct information or not. Doing it at a POC level is different, because at a POC level, if part of it is being generated correctly and the part of it is seemingly correct, you would still be excited. But when you want to do it at an enterprise level to solve some real business problems, you need to be very sure that this is accurate, or if it's not accurate, at least or you are able to find out. So your validation effort should not be that high. Second thing is, there is still some concerns around data security. Okay. And when I say data security, one is the data security of these models itself. Like, there was an outage, chat GPT outage in March, when users could see each other's chat history. They could also see some payment related details. Organizations, they are wary of that particular fact. Models are evolving, all these players, they are putting a lot of security around it, so that would change. But at this point in time, there are still concerns around it. There are also concerns of how that particular data would be used by the generative AI. Would it be used to train the the models? Now you can actually stop it. There are settings where you can say that don't use my data to train the model for the wider deployments, or just train it for my use case. But there are still concerns around it. Third, we see that doing it at a POC level, when you want to take it to production, talent availability is a problem. There are certain newer skills which are coming into picture, like prompt engineering, for example. Because one is, you have to define the boundary and you have to give context, both of these particular factors. Like any new skill, particularly skills which have this kind of a hype, there is shortage of the skill, the cost is high. So that particular aspect is also there. Also, there are a lot of, I would say, concerns around the IP rights. So organizations, like in US, the content generated by AI program, you cannot have IP rights on that. In UK, even generative AI generated content which you have kind of customized for your thing, you can get it, you can get an IP right on that. So there's still confusion around it, and people don't know what would be original, because if you want to do it at an enterprise level, you want to protect that particular information or output that you have created. So there is still some confusion around it, because of which organizations are wary of going big bang without getting a clarity on all these aspects. So these are some of the concerns which I'm seeing. There is also a concern on organizations not having the right data, right infrastructure in place, right business processes. So I have seen some organizations who would want to use generative AI to create or get good insights from their data. But if the data itself is not high quality, if there are data quality related issues, they're ultimately going to reflect. on the output. So these are some of the concerns which I see here.
Yeah, some of the problems you mentioned are pretty much problems that even AI face. It's just not Gen AI, right? But considering some of the problems specifically you mentioned, which were exclusive to generative AI, and not that we are very, I don't know how close are we to solve some of these problems, right? Or some of these roadblocks. And if we are, and if we are, then good. If we are not, why is everybody trying to bring a technology first? Isn't it like there should be a problem and then we bring in technology? We always said that about AI. Nobody's talking that about in terms of Gen AI. Everybody's just so excited. They want to implement POCs. So how is that thought process, and what are some of the frameworks that are available to tackle these roadblocks?
So that's why, it's said that it's a paradigm shift. I think, I'm not wrong. Someone said that this may be the biggest innovation since steam engine. Okay, so when you have a huge paradigm shift, then many a times, you define a problem after you see what this product is capable of. When it's incremental change, typically then you have a problem and then you bring in a solution or a technology to solve that. That's why generative AI is so transformational, because what it can do, no one knows the limits of what it can solve, what it can do. So yes, that particular part is evolving, where the solution, or I would say what it can solve, that capability is there. You have to define, as I said, that most organizations, they have not defined the problem statements for which they are going to use it, but they've started defining it right now. How close we are to solving some of these problems? I would say we are moving very fast on solving, like data security that I talked about, ethical standards being set up. There is huge amount of work going on in this space. And as I said, some amount of production deployment I've started seeing in some of my clients, in some of my engagements and accounts, where they have started taking it to a production level. Talent availability is something which, anyways, once you have this kind of a high uh, talent problem would be solved. It definitely takes some time, but you already see a lot of trainings around it. You see a lot of courses going around it. You see organizations setting up COEs, Center of
Mhm.
Excellence, specifically for Gen AI. Uh, First of all, to build talent. Second, to institutionalize the knowledge that they are learning from one, maybe a POC, they do 10 POCs. And then maybe all 10 of them fail, or none of them would be, they would want to take to a production level, but there would be learnings around it. So they are forming those COEs, taking those learnings, and then putting it in the further use cases. So I would say we
Yeah.
are very close in solving most of these challenges.
CO is one way, right? What are some of the other structural changes that are needed in a company, right? From a perspective of setting up delivery teams, as well as from a perspective of how you engage with the client.
So if I talk from a, not just from, I would say, service providers like us, I would say take any enterprise. One big change that they would need to do, or that is happening, is you would see a lot of strategy guys moving to technology and technology guys moving to strategy. The boundaries between strategy or business and technology has never blurred to this extent.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen a, a small manufacturing company based out of Manesar talking about Gen AI in their boardroom? It was never the case. It was not the case even during AI. It was never the case during ERP. So now it's a boardroom agenda. It's a boardroom discussion. So that is one of the structural changes that I'm seeing, where a lot of business folks will be moving to technology to actually see that how technology can help them solve those business problems which they are aware. Technology folks are moving to business to see that how the business can adopt these technologies to do things much better. So that is one change that I'm seeing day by day. Second thing is building a right ecosystem. You know, this is still evolving, and Gen AI is, the implications are, far-reaching. It would be there in each thing. If you define an order to cash cycle, procure to pay, hire to retire, everywhere you can define how you can make your stakeholders experience much better, or you can bring in significant productivity gain using generative AI. No one company would be able to do that. What kind of ecosystem are you building? That is going to be very, very important. So I think these two big structural changes I see, which organizations are taking and would need to take to make it successful.
When you say ecosystem meaning, I mean, the one or two things that I can think about is talent or the right upskilling, initiatives. What what other things constitute of this ecosystem, so that we can go slightly a little bit more deeper into it and help the audience understand what changes are needed.
So ecosystem would be advisors, set of advisors who would advise you on the ethics, security,
Mhm.
compliances. There are huge compliances implications. Like if you are, let's take an example. You are a product company. You are an HRMS company, for example, and you are using a particular data set, and you are using generative AI, and you are sending the customer data, employee data, individual data. This has got far-reaching implication. This is dictated by many policies, compliances, and you don't want to be on the wrong side. So this is like one side where, and it's very difficult because this is still evolving. It varies from country to country, and as I said, it's changing. So that is one kind of area on the compliances, data security, ethics. Second is building the set of uh, providers who can provide you not just with talent, but they can give you some accelerators or domain trained models. So for example, if there is a healthcare company, okay, using foundational model, you can do only as much, because as I said, it doesn't have the context. So there would be players, healthcare players, who would have foundation model trained on healthcare data specific to a particular area. You would not want to reinvent the wheel. So you would have, you'd want to partner with such providers as well. So these are some of the examples. Then you would have the right set of partners for your data strategy, and making sure that your data is in place. You have got high quality data which can be fed to your foundation model, and thereafter you can actually get better results, more contextualized results for your use cases.
Fantastic. And my final question to you is, now that whatever we discussed, essentially we are understanding that we're still in a very nascent stage of building Gen AI. We will get their value from this interview. I am you sound very optimistic about its potential, and you think that it is going to make a big difference. It has gotten the right stakeholders excited. There is investment coming in despite its very nascent stage. Uh, in the short term, right? In the long term, probably we will solve these answers, and but we don't know how long that is. If organizations are looking to harness the best value out of their current investment in the short term, right? Where do they start? How do they enable that? And then probably how do they see this into their long term vision? If we can close with that, and this message.
Yeah. So I would say, this is actually a summarization, I would say, of some of the points, which is create a right strategy around Gen AI, identify use cases which are low complexity, high impact, and low validation effort. Uh, Prioritize them basis the impact, cost, data readiness, resistance to adoption, because as we all know, there is huge resistance as well, because there is fear as well amongst people. And basis that, create a roadmap. That's the first thing. Put a strategy of fail first, identify those use cases, do a series of POCs and pilots, but again, only for the use cases which you really want to solve, or the problems which you really want to solve. Do not do things just for the heck of it. Okay. Create transparency in how you are going to bring all the stakeholders on board around it. Just tell them that how it's going to impact them, whether it's the data, which that would be, their data which would be shared, or their job roles could be changing. Bring all of that together. I'm very, very sure that while this will bring in a lot of efficiency, I don't see it replacing humans. I don't see it. I see it augmenting. Humans. I see it making humans more effective. But making that happen is important to bring everyone together. So create a change management program right at the onset. Create awareness programs. There was a study by MIT which actually says that. Organizational culture, organizations which would embrace generative AI, they are going to have more productive workforce and happier workforce. So it's culturally, it's going to make those workplaces a lot better. But initially, there is fear. So to make it more productive and even in short term, so that I always tell people that there is no long term without short term. If it's getting killed in the infancy, it would not even see a light of the day in the origin, in the scaled up version. So for that to happen, you would need to take people together, and for that to happen, you would need to create a good change management program.
Okay, fantastic. On that note, to a happier and a productive future of the workforce, thank you so much, Chetan, for joining us today. It was very insightful. I hope the audience find good value. They build the right frameworks as through the guidelines that you just mentioned, and we build Gen AI sustainably that benefits everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kashyap. Thanks for having me.